Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Just let me know if you can see and hear me okay. Fingers crossed that you can. Just waiting for a few people to jump on, for somebody to pop up and say hello. I'm just going to log in on here so I can see everybody's names and who you are. I mean, it says Matthew's gone live, so yeah, fingers crossed. Don't know why it does it. I mean, I set the stream and everything like that, but yeah, for some reason, it always says Matthew has gone live and not me. Right, I'm just going to jump into that just so I can see the comments. Yeah, a few people are joining us. Just say hi, guys. Let us know. Give us a like. Give us a love. Just so we can push out that notification, just to let everyone know that we're going live. Today's going to be a pretty cash kind of session, kind of laid back. Just want to have a chat with you guys, really. Obviously, while we're in this period of time over summer, I want to make sure that we're sort of talking to you and, understanding what you guys need from us, as well as, because I know I'm guilty at going off on my own agenda sometimes about stuff that kind of, particularly affects me. So it'd be good to hear your kind of feedback and thoughts about some of the content. As you can see, we're starting to release more and more content on the YouTube channel now. So what kind of content you want covered? And all that kind of thing. So, and I want to go through a few questions that got answered in the groups. Just making sure that we're kind of covering all bases at the moment. So, Wesley's joined us afternoon. Hi, guys. Hi, Ben. Hi, Mate. Hi. Hello, hello, hello. Got a few of you on today, which I'm a little bit surprised about, actually. One, because I only just set the stream. And two, because obviously it is the start of the summer. But let me know in the comments, guys, now that the kids are off, and I know not everyone's parents, obviously, but now that the kids are off, do you feel a bit freer? Because one thing Matt Cromie always says to me is, most people think when the kids come off, I don't know, maybe it's a self-employed versus an employed thing, that it's more hassle when the kids come off on holiday. But for us, it's not, we hate being bound by things like school run times and things like that, because when you're an entrepreneur, you want to be able to be free to work. We don't do this to kind of follow the crowd and be with everyone else, sat in that 5:30 traffic. Now, obviously, legally, we have to send our kids to school, so we can't get around that one, of course. But, we actually quite like it when it comes to the summer holidays, because it kind of lifts that burden of being tied, essentially, which, I know I particularly like that. I know Matt likes that. The kids like that, obviously, as well. So it's always something that we just want to make sure that we take advantage of as much as possible. It's like today, Tuesday's always technically a busy day for me. Never mind the buy box. I do some coaching. We have Hive Live, which is always on 7:00 on a Tuesday. I have a couple of meetings. Like I said in my post earlier, it's a busy day, and it's a day of varied tasks as well. So in terms of, not having to also factor in kids' school runs as well, and things like that is really, really helpful, because, my kids are old enough now. I set them a lovely task when I was on a call with someone this morning. I was like, right, okay, tidy your rooms. And it's something that I don't have to worry about doing, and I can get them to do it as well. So it works really, really well for me. Ben said would love a wholesale session with live product finding. That's definitely going to be a Johnny session for sure. I know that in the Hive, obviously, guys, if you're members in there is definitely his Sunday sourcing sessions, which I know he wants to do more of as well. But obviously, B Stocked is taking up the majority of his time at the moment, and we are ever so close of going into our final testing stage on that. Sorry, not going into, starting our testing stage on that. So that is monopolizing all of his time at the moment. And I know how keen you guys are for B stock to get going. So that's where the majority of his time is being focused at the moment. But we have successfully been approved by Amazon now, which is good. We're just waiting for them to update one final thing. It's always just seems like something I wasn't aware of, like producing software. It's always like one more thing. You think you passed the kind of finishing line, or in our case at the starting line, and then it's always like, oh well, actually we just need this one more thing. So it's we're learning as we go. Hi Julia, hi Jackie. Jackie, I have seen your message, but I wasn't very well yesterday. I had a really bad headache yesterday. I know it's a bit random, but I will take a look at it when I go through my messages a bit later today. But yes, we'll definitely cover some wholesale stuff. I can write that down as we go. But, wholesale is something that it really depends what type of wholesale it is. Do you want wholesale bundling? Do you want standard wholesale? Do you want the difference between identifying wholesalers, finding, products, understanding pricing for wholesale, all of these different types of things? It's I actually think when it comes down to it, with regards to identifying products, that's probably the easiest part of it. To be fair, it's all the kind of stuff after that. So maybe like, some live sessions of products, but then also a little bit of a follow-up session with what to do after that. I think that will be pretty cool. Hello, everyone. Oh, Matt Cromie has joined us. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people on today. I thought with the summer starting and I don't know, let me know. Are you watching from a sunbed somewhere? I thought people would be the great summer getaway. I thought people would be heading out into summer holidays. That's a good question. Can you give it? I don't know who's asked it. Let me just. I'm just going to go into the other group. Sorry, guys. I usually see my mum on a Tuesday, but she has a cold too. That's Jackie. Do you know what I've had? Literally, I'm not going to moan, but I've literally had cold. Then I've just had like a run of like ailments, I would say. I've had like a cold. I don't think I told anyone I broke my toes last week as well, which was fun. Then what else did we do? And then, just this horrible weather and migraines and everything like that. But yeah, it's just like, I know quite a lot of people have got colds at the moment, which is really weird. I'm sorry, I don't know who asked that actually, with regards to the unique bundle. I don't know where that question's come from. But can you give us some insight into budget for unique bundles? Was advised by someone a while back that a lot of capital is needed. I disagree with that. Certainly in the way that I teach unique bundles. You don't need a large starting capital. You can start with as little as creating something like 6 products, something like that to start with, 6 units, not 6 products, 6 units of a product. You find an idea and then you test it. The way that I teach it is really all about validation of the products and mitigating risk, because why I originally started unique bundles and developed the system that I developed in the UK was I really wanted to do private label. I found that was going to be something that was going to work really well for me and my personality and everything like that. But I'm not a big risk taker. I'm probably a moderate risk kind of person. I'm not like a really, risky person that just wants to like plow 10 grand into private label. And, years ago, private label, when you had all like the Amazon selling machine courses and things like that, you had to pay out quite a lot of money for a course. And then it was never really what they said it was going to be in terms of financial commitment, because they'd be like, oh no, you can start with this, you can start with £1,000. But then I will look into something to an extent where I knew that it wasn't going to cost that, because it just didn't make sense. Because obviously what they were teaching was they would they would tell you what it would cost minus the learning and just ordering your first whack of products, not taking into account PPC, not taking into account giveaways, which were popular at the time, not taking into account, the second wave of orders, not taking into account no profit probably for your first three, and all of these different factors, development of the product, branding, photography. And there were so many hidden fees that, I certainly at the time, and this was 5 or 6 years ago, I was looking at this. And, most people were saying you could probably start with anywhere between £2,000 to £5,000, or dollars, depending on where you were. But my estimations were it was at least double that. And for me to make that kind of investment at that time, and not knowing whether or not it was actually going to work, it was too risky. So, I didn't want to do it. It's like you invest 10 grand and then you're like, and then you still don't know at that point whether or not it's going to work, because at that point you're probably still at giveaways. You're certainly not into any profit at that stage or anything like that. So that's why I kind of devised the unique bundles for the UK and built the system that I did. And it's built on validation and taking as small risks as possible. But to answer your question, genuinely, you can start it with as little as identifying a product and buying 6 units of that product, getting started. The investment really has to be in you, in your time, in your knowledge of understanding the system. It would be unfair for me to say, oh, it's just 6 products and that's it. You have to, it depends whether or not you are going to spend the time learning it yourself and, making those mistakes yourself, or whether or not you're going to join something like the Hive, which has it all covered for you. But there's always a trade-off. You have to pay for that at the end of the day, because the steps are laid out for you, or you can go ahead and find it out yourself. So if you're factoring, that money element in, then, you're probably going to take, if you join something like the Hive, it's £99 a month plus VAT. Then the content is dripped in, and you probably be in there for, depending on what type of person you are, whether you kind of launch as you go, or whether you're someone that wants to absorb all of the information and then start the process. In reality, you're probably you've probably paid 2 or 3 months subscription before you've got started. So that's going to be a financial investment there at that point. And then obviously the cost of your products, potentially what type of bundle option that you launch. Then there would be anywhere, you could be looking at a little bit of advertising on top. So I think heart of hearts, in terms of a financial commitment and also a physical time commitment as well, I would say, you probably want to factor in probably something like £500 to start, and you could realistically start without that type of budget for sure. Oh, it's Nor. Okay, hi, there we are. I didn't see the name pop up before. Apologies. So, can you advise us about startup budget for unique bundles? Was advised by someone a while back. PPC can eat up a lot of the money. And true, yeah, it's so true. That is definitely true. It can, but the system that I've created it's not just about utilizing PPC. So there's one type of bundle that you can launch where there's hardly any PPC involved at all. This is why I've created the system that I've created. It gives people different options to be able to start, budget depending what they want to be able to learn, whether or not you go ahead through brand registry and pay out for that. That's, upwards of £500 in the UK, probably more like $1,500 in the US, depending on what you're going to use. There's always costs, and like I said, it comes down to whether or not you want to learn and do everything yourself, or whether or not you want to pay to join somewhere like the Hive or something like that. It will get you there quicker. But I do stand by the fact that the information in the Hive, because we've been doing it for so long, is at a different level compared to others, because we have so many different scenarios of things that work, in terms of how you can launch different bundles. We just don't just shove a load of chocolate in a box and launch it from that. We look at very much in depth into things, but always has to be a trade-off. So it's either your time or money, or a little bit of both, really. So I will start straight to the point. How much should our Acos during bundles? Well, that's to be perfectly honest, that's a never-ending question. To be perfectly honest, it could be anything. When you start off, as always, it depends on the campaign. It depends on the type of bundle. If it's a lower bundle in terms of it's just based around kind of branded products and there's no unique elements involved, then I'd be looking at a really good, really low ACOS, of anything below 5%. Anything else, it comes down to a simple calculation of, providing your ACOS is always below your cost of goods, then you're not going to be losing money. That's the important way to look at PPC when it comes to be launching products. So providing you are always at that point or thereabouts, then what you're looking for is you're looking for your PPC to help you rank organically. So your ACOS, say for instance, your cost of goods is £3. That means for every sale that you get on advertising, as long as your ACOS matches that, I'm just going to, sort of like saying around the £10 example, as long as it's never above that, it means that you will always make money if you're going to be, because you're going to be getting organic sales as well. And I think that's sometimes where people get lost. They see their ACOS and they look at it and they think, wow, 30%, that's really, really high. But actually it's not. So for any type of bundles, if we're doing sort of like a campaign specific to bundles, providing our ACOS is below 30%, we're generally quite happy with that. If it's around 20%, that's ideal. But overall, we are looking for our total cost of advertising, which is the TACOS. We want that to ideally be below 10%, because that's factoring in our organic sales as well. So does ACOS affect general profit, or is it some kind of different profit? I don't really understand the question relating to that. But yeah, of course, it affects profit. Yeah, because it's a cost that goes towards your business. But it depends how you look at it, obviously. Unfortunately, when it comes to advertising now, it's very hard to, it's not impossible, but it's very, very hard to rank a product now without some sort of advertising. But it just depends on what type of advertising you use. Gosh, there's a lot of questions there, which is good. This is a Q&A session. There is a lot of variations in cases with PPC, with bids, etc. Sorry. There is lots of variations in cases with PPC, with bids, etc. How to learn each way or each case, how to fix PPC. In terms of variations, you put the PPC on what you perceive to be what you think will be the best seller. You don't put it on any others. I think that's what you mean in that case. I just want to double check, guys. This is never mind the Bible. This isn't the Hive PPC. So I just want to double check whoever's, I can't tell who's putting these questions. Right. Okay, Mata, I think these questions are for tonight, not for this session here. This is like a general kind of which I'm happy to answer these. It's fine. But this isn't a PPC Q&A. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go through these and answer them. But we can, if we go through these in a bit more detail tonight, if that's okay, because we've got a PPC session dedicated to the Hive tonight. Because I think there's a lot of people will be like, what is going on here, kind of thing. So yeah, I just want to double check that. So yeah, maybe just keep them and repost these tonight, and we can go through them in a little bit more detail. And I think actually probably a lot of what we're going to go through tonight will probably answer these anyway as well. So very quickly, is automation from Sellerboard good way to make it easy? Again, I don't really understand the question in what that relates to. I use Sellerboard to, I think you might be talking about cost of PPC. Sellerboard is probably the best one in terms of tracking the cost of PPC attributed per day. But you've always got to remember PPC data is always behind. So it's very, very hard to be able to attribute it to a day or something like that. And it may well be you may pay out and then it might catch a cookie a bit later in the week or something. So the devil is in the detail sometimes. There's no doubt about it. But I think overall, you need to be looking at percentages as opposed to be like really trying to narrow it down too much, because the data is not that reliable to be able to do that. It needs to be looked at as probably like a monthly cost or a spend, but I'll talk about that a little bit more tonight. Can we get a small infographic? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to come off these ones because this is definitely obviously for tonight in terms of unique bundle in the live session that we've got related to the hive. So thank you for your question. Sorry, I didn't realize that, guys, as I was going through it. And I suddenly realized these are quite specific questions. So I'm going to go through those in a little bit more detail. But just to let you know, I'm going to need a bit more clarification on some of those questions, because I don't understand some of them. So if you could just, reword them and elaborate them on for tonight, if that's okay. Okay. So my all inventory PPC ACOS is 5.5. What should I do to get this to the ideal 4%? So it probably means that you're spending a little bit in terms of you're over probably spending on non-converting keywords or keywords that are not that are probably costing you quite a lot of money. So you would need to go through your search term reports and see if there's any kind of big branded repeat keywords that keep coming up that you're not converting on. But to be perfectly honest, if it's an all inventory PPC and it's a very low bid and low budget, then it depends what you've set them at. If you followed, setting them at like 5p and not gone above that bid range, then there's not a lot else you can do, to be perfectly honest, in that respect, to be able to change that. But 5.5 to 4%, if it's a standard PPC 5p campaign, then it's not really much of a muchness. We don't really optimize those types of campaigns, to be perfectly honest. If the bid is higher, then I would just reduce your bid cost down. So if you put it up from 5p, just bring it back down, and that will likely reduce the ACOS as well. And it depends what type of bidding strategy you're doing. Is it down only? Is it fixed? We only really use down only and fixed. So if you're on fixed, maybe change it to down only, and that could potentially bring it up as well. Okay, so okay. Oh, so Josh, yeah, you've just said. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's the lower one. Also, Josh, how long has that campaign been running through? Because the longer it runs, the more the ACOS would reduce, definitely. Can you talk more a bit about your move back to UK arbitrage? Yes, I was going to talk about that today, actually. So yeah, I will be doing that for sure. But any other kind of PPC, and if you're a member of the Hive, I've realized actually it's my bad today, guys, because obviously I've said in the Hive that we're going to be doing the PPC Q&A, and then I've titled this as a Q&A as well. So I think people have got confused. So That's my bad. Apologies for that. I think I've confused everyone saying that this is going to be a PPC. But I will go through and answer that tonight. But Josh, just let me know how long it's been running. In terms of ACOS, if it's longer than a month, if it's longer than a month, then yeah, you can have a look at optimization a little bit more, but I'll talk about that a little bit more tonight anyway. Rafiq's joined us. Hi, Rafiq. Excuse me. Just gonna get a drink. Okay, so okay, I'm just gonna go here. Again, I'm not sure who's asked this. I'm really sorry. I seem to be getting ones coming up with not knowing. Oh, here we are. I wasn't in the comments. That's why. Right, 2 secs, guys. Sorry. Apologies. Right, it's Nick. Okay, sorry, Nick. I've been doing bundles for a decade, but what you said here, my question, if we try and make a title which said Cadbury's, it would either stop you listing it all or it will end up being suspected. I think you're talking about IP claims. Been doing bundles. My question: if I was to try and make a title which said Cadbury, it really depends. It's a mixed bag, Nick. There's no way to tell. You can do things like having a look at the type of product. Like something like Cadbury's is probably unlikely to get an IP claim because although suspected does come down to brand registry, what's put in the system, and Amazon sending out the bots. So when you get a suspected IP claim, it's coming from Amazon. It's not coming from the brand itself. Now, some brands are going to be bothered about it, some brands aren't, but you never really know until you write that title and put it in. So I often get asked, how can you prevent suspected IP? How can you do this? How can you do that? Now, you just have to kind of test the water, really. If it comes back as suspected IP, then you have to remove the brand name. It's as simple as that. You are unable to use the brand name. But using things like generic now, which is now, I've advised having generic for years, being able to list under that. Since Amazon brought in the brand name policy, it's something that we knew generic was only going to be able to be used for a certain period of time. And now it's the case that I just don't recommend anybody anybody list anything under generic anymore, because what it does is it kind of puts your head above the parapet, and you're more likely to receive an IP complaint. But it comes down to the way that the title is written. So, if you can't list it under generic, what can you list it under? And if you don't have permission from the brand, you can't list it under the brand. So you have to list it under your own brand. But it is how that title is written. So the key is to make sure when you are writing the titles that you're making it absolutely clear that it is your brand are selling that bundle, that you have not manufactured that bundle, that you are selling that bundle, which is not your brand. That is the key, and that is how Amazon wants it represented. And but at the same time, you can still do everything right, but if the brand name gets picked up, because it's been entered into the brand registry, IP detector, then it still may be that you might get an alert from that point of view. So it's something that it's just trial and error, I'm afraid. And there's lots and lots of different, scenarios. It's like when we teach in the Hive, we teach like, okay, I can't give an exact answer to any of this, to be perfectly honest, because it really depends on the circumstances. There's not a one answer fits all. We would go through almost a checklist of things to check if we get suspected IP, if we get a suppression, because once you get past suspected IP, the next issue you might have is, okay, is my bundle going to be suppressed now? Okay, if it is it suppressed because of this? No. Is it suppressed? And you ask anyone in the hive, the checklists are really, really long. So it almost becomes like a process of elimination. But that's only done through something that you do every single day. And I wish I could just give a straight answer that says, okay, yeah, follow this and do this, but unfortunately it isn't. It becomes a process of elimination. You almost have to get your detective hat on and try and work out what is happening and then try and fix it, and do this. When we're talking about suppression, it could be one of 15 things, and it's not like Amazon tells you which one it is either. You just have to keep going through it and see what works and see what doesn't work. But sometimes it gets to a point where it's so suppressed that you're better off just scrapping it and starting it again, once you know what the issue is. So it's not easy. This is what I say to people when it comes to bundles. It is not easy. It's why we created the hive, so we can give people support as much as possible in terms of going through this process. Because anyone that says it's easy, it's not. Anyone that says it's a tick box thing, it's not. There's lots of different scenarios when it comes into it. So you just kind of have to go through it and see what works for you and see what hasn't worked for you. Okay. Ross, I'm going to answer. Can you re-ask that question in the PPC live tonight, if that's okay, please? If you're not around, because obviously that's specific to what we've been talking about in the hive. So, but what I will say to anyone as well is there seems to be depending on, again, if you're not in the hive, it's kind of a little bit harder to understand because like I said at the very start of this, I teach bundles in a very different way, in my own unique way than from what I've seen other people teach it. So there's different answers for different scenarios. But what I will say is, when you're talking about adding advertising to the cost of something, you are not looking to make an immediate profit. It's about ranking your bundle. It's as simple as that. Now, I understand that there can't be an infinite period of time where you're not making profit from it, of course, but you've got to understand you can't just launch a bundle and expect it to make profit straight away, especially if it's something that you're going to have to advertise, put that advertising to. But you need to be able, the consistency of keeping going with it. But I'm going to go through and answer that in a little bit more detail tonight, Ross, because that's definitely something, where do you get that cutoff point? Where do you stop? Where don't you stop? And things like that. So I'll go through and answer that in a bit more detail tonight. Okay, so Josh said it's been running for 2 months and it's down only. Okay, so then probably if it's 5p and it's just a standard, then what I would say is there probably could be some search terms in there that are sucking up a bit of the budget and not converting for you. So if you're seeing those repeating words in the search term and you're just not getting any type of sales and you're noticing that they're sucking up quite a bit of budget, then you can negate those, especially if they are not relevant to kind of like anything that you're selling. But 5.5 to 4, under, like I say, it's under 5% really. I don't know if I would worry too much, because you'll spend between 0.5% getting it below the 5, and what you're probably spending on a daily budget is probably just not worth the hassle, to be perfectly honest. In terms of the money that it would save you, it might save you like 50p a day, probably not even that at that percentage. So I wouldn't sweat the small stuff too much when it comes down to that. Okay, so yeah, sorry, that's my apologies, guys. This has gone into a little bit of a PPC session, because I think people, like I said, I'm doing a PPC Q&A in the hive tonight, and I think people have sort of like thinking that today's session was covering it, but it's not. We're going to be doing that tonight. And like I said, it's not even going to be a PPC kind of, well, it is a Q&A tonight as well. but I think a lot of there's going to be extra training tonight that's going to go through and cover a lot of the questions anyway as well. So let's talk about, moving back into arbitrage. So probably around the start of September, we want to capitalize, of course, for Q4 as much as possible. So about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we actually came out of the UK straight arbitrage market. For various different reasons. It was, at the time we found bundles, and we kind of just focused more on creating bundles and unique bundles as opposed to standard reselling. So we always been resellers in the UK market. It just depends on what kind of label that you put on it. So we still have a bundle business in the UK market. We don't have a straight vanilla arbitrage business in the UK market. So, that's the difference between the two. But what I've noticed recently, especially since starting traditional arbitrage back again in the US market, is that there is a big gap, I think, to concentrate solely on UK arbitrage done in a certain way. And I'm not talking about doing it the same way that most people talking about it. It's by having a specific game plan to use this particular, selling model for the UK. So it is going to be standard arbitrage, so it's going to be straight reselling. So it's just going to be like buying from Boots and selling on, but it's going to be done with a specific sourcing and selling strategy. So it's not going to be done, to buy and flip and sell. There's going to be, specific blueprint that it's going to follow, that it's going to achieve certain, I suppose, points within that blueprint. So once it gets to a certain point, it'll be sold for this or that. It's going to have a very specific strategy that's going to be attached to it. It's not just going to be a case of, I'm going to buy a load of stuff like traditionally and, traditionally resell it. It's going to be sold following kind of one process, essentially, no matter what the product is. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'm really interested to see the results, because it's going to be kind of testing the water. Because I think sometimes what happens is, with straight reselling and arbitrage, is you can actually get to a position where there's just too many products to have too many, different rules and different this and different that. So what I want to try and do is build an income stream, related to that, to see if it can be built specifically using an advanced one size fits all strategy. It's almost like a rules-based strategy when it comes to selling. So I don't know what it's going to be like. It might work, it might not, and this is what I wanted to be able to do it over the shoulder, so I can sort of like show everybody, what the results will be. Overall, there'll be some wins. Overall, there'll be some losses, but it's going to come down to overall, having more wins than not, and taking advantage of, certain benefits, selling benefits, cashbacks and things like that. So I want to build a specific kind of reselling, model, as opposed to looking at things more individually. I want to try and build a strategy that follows more, like I said, a one size fits all, even though one size doesn't fit all, but you're kind of making it fit all, if that makes sense. I don't even know if I'm making sense, to be perfectly honest. I know exactly what I'm doing in my mind, but I don't know if I'm making sense in my mind. I'm going in, I'm starting the business with a different mindset. That I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think it's Sean that says you can make hundreds of pounds a month with free cashbacks and get paid for your purchases at certain stores. My energy company paying me hundreds again. Yeah, it's really utilizing this business to take advantage of some of the things that Sean has said there. So it's not necessarily an all-out profit model. There is profit involved. Obviously, I wouldn't do it unless there's profit involved, or that's what their plans to be in that respect. But it's about using and utilizing certain models for certain parts of the business. I was listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad this morning, actually, and one of the things that really struck me, and it was quite timely, I think, um, with restarting this business model, back in the UK, it's about making your money work for you as opposed to you working for your money. And I think that Amazon has changed a lot over the last couple of years. And I think if you go in now with just a strategy just to resell, and that's it, and nothing else. And I'm talking about, buying from Tesco's, reselling, that point of view. I'm not talking about bundles, I'm not talking about wholesale, I'm not talking about, anything. I'm talking about buying one product or a set of products and reselling it for more, i.e. profit, flipping, arbitrage, whatever you want to call it. If you want to do just that, you need to concentrate on that. Whereas I think this business has evolved so much over the last couple of years that you can utilize different marketplaces, different selling strategies to tick different boxes. So this is what it's all about. So restarting the UK arbitrage model will be for a specific purpose. Yes, there will be cashback involved, definitely, profit involved, definitely, but it's about utilizing and making the money that we make elsewhere, making it work for us elsewhere. So, making sure that we are maximizing every possible benefit that we can in this business, never paying out for a flight again, getting holidays covered, energy bills covered, all of these different type of things, having your food bill covered. And like I said, it's about making the money that you earn work for you as opposed to you working for that money. So I don't want to mislead anyone in thinking that we're going to bring in the type of margins that we're going to bring in that we see for our mixed businesses and bundle businesses, where we look at 20% net. It's probably going to be much, much lower than that. But it's going to be for very specific reason, to maximize not only profit, but to make sure that we're covering areas that other parts of our business can't cover, because we're going to take that profit from those businesses, we're going to channel it into another area, and we're going to make that money work for us. So, that's what it comes down for. That's what it comes down to, essentially, because the way that I see it is my electricity bill, on average costs, I think, I don't know, it's like £400-500 a month at the moment. Yes, I know that's exaggerated in terms of, energy's high and things like that. But, does anyone believe it's really going to come down that much once something goes up? Does it ever really come back down again? Well, I want to make sure I know how I can get that covered completely, and I don't want to be physically paying out for that when I don't need to. I can instead of taking profit from another part of my business and paying that bill, what I can do is I can take that profit that I would be, paying that bill, I can put it into a different part of the business, and I can use that profit. Bearing in mind that will compound into inventory as well. So it's not a case of it was the same profit that comes back out the other end. No, I can take that profit, channel it in, and I can get that bill paid. So I don't have to pay it out of my physical money. It's not coming out, which means I don't have to take it out of my business, which means I don't have to pay tax on it. At that point in that business, you will have to pay tax at it at some point in the journey, but it's all about making that money work for us. And there's an area that I think is really lacking in the UK arbitrage, that we have all the resources, we have the team members, we have the ability to be able to do it. And that's what it's going to be covering. So I'm really excited about that, and I want to show it from a different kind of angle, essentially, as opposed to it just being a profit endeavor, which, you know, hopefully there will be that as well. Sean says people don't believe me that I don't pay for anything apart from council tax, points, free sandwich meals, Boots, Tesco, Asda points, company pays for dinner outside. Kicked off last week because I paid £20. Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's adopting that kind of rich dad, poor dad strategy of making sure that every part of your business is working for you. Now, you don't have to already be running a business. You can start with this process. We're just kind of doing it in the reverse a little bit. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, okay, well, it's only because you're already operating in different countries and doing different models and things like that. No, you can start with this process, but it's about having a different expectation of you know what it's going to do and what it's going to achieve, essentially. So that I'm really looking forward to that for sure. Sean, I think it's again because I'm good with money and cashbacks and low liabilities. I'm working for free 11 months, flipping limited company money over and over again, and should generate 50 grand by doing this. And that's essentially what it's about. It's about flipping and compounding under the protection of a limited company, and utilizing corporation benefits to be able to do it. So this specifically is what, coming back to the UK arbitrage market, is going to specifically be about. I'm sure at some point I will venture into you know, lower level bundles at some point. I won't be able to help myself, I'm sure. But first and foremost, it is predominantly to start out just from reselling and using a very specific selling strategy associated with that to get a certain return on investment of the money that I put in. So hopefully that makes sense. Realized that went on for quite a while. So hi Phil, glad you joined us. Any other questions, let me know as we go through. You guys have been great today. I mean, obviously, apart from the whole the whole mix up with whether this was like a PPC session. Has anyone had a chance to go through and watch the IP video that I released last week? It's got quite you know, quite a few views, so I imagine a few of you have gone ahead and watched it. It's really I wanted to just spend kind of 5 minutes talking about that and making sure that if you haven't already watched it, please make sure you do, because it is one of those little known kind of new things that have come out that you can utilize to help clean up your account health. Now, what I always want to say, and I just want to re-go over this again, I'm not going to go through the whole details of the video again, to be perfectly honest. The video's there, and you know, it shows you how to do it, why you can do it, and what you can do it. But what I will say is the process should always come down to you should really always try and you know, win an appeal to start with, you know, if the option is given there, to get the complainant to remove the complaint, you know, if that's easy enough. But what I particularly like about this, oh, that's good. Darren says, I got rid of 3 of mine. Thank you. You're welcome. What it's there for, you know, to be used kind of straight away for, is if you've got some stubborn ones that you've not been able to remove, if your account is close to deactivation because, you know, your account health assurance score has dropped, then that's what it's absolutely fantastic for. Because I know quite a few people that have been deactivated, you know, through too many IP claims or something like that. So the fact is that, you know, you may just have one at some point in your business that tips you over the edge. So with this, it gives you the opportunity that you can kind of keep on top of it. and not have to worry about that 180 days if you can see that your account health score is on like a gradual decline. So I saw someone said the other day that they had a load, and but one that they had, it caused them to drop like 12 points, but the others didn't have any impact. So it was with those ones, what I would do is the ones that didn't have any impact, I would take some time, I would submit the appeal, I would try and get like a complainant to remove them. But the one that had like 12 points, and if I'm close to that 200 score, then I would go ahead and remove that and try and get those 12 points back. Now, it's like I said on the video, it's worked a couple of ways. When we were doing the testing, I've seen people get the points back. I've seen people that haven't got the points back. I've seen people that have got the points, the deactivation has gone, but the points, have remained the same, but then they've got them back a couple of weeks later or something like that. So, it's like anything in life. Too much of one thing is not a good thing. It's now just to be brought in, to be utilized as an additional method to be able to keep your account health under check. I wouldn't recommend as soon as you get one, just to go through bang, 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 get rid. Use a variety of different techniques and strategies within your business, because variety is the spice of life after all. I wouldn't just do one thing continuously over and over and over and over and over again, because, we don't know if it does make up some sort of like hidden score behind the scene or something like that. But it's fantastically useful. I would love to think, in terms of the world of Amazon, whether or not it's true, that if you're removing them and your points are going up, that those points are not being held against you elsewhere. That's what logic says to me, but I don't know. Amazon and logic, do they go together? Who knows? So someone said, Josh said, I just had 4 removed. I didn't know that I could do this. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that when it came out, a few people were like, yeah, I know about it. And I was like, well, why didn't you say anything? So it was one of those things. I'd seen it on there for a little while. But I was kind of scared to push the button a little bit, I think. And I was having a conversation with Hayden, and we were talking about it, and he spoke to someone at Count Health and said, yeah. And, he was advised to do it, and it went ahead and it got rid of it. So again, you would think that, again, it always reminds me of that thing, that meme that's like, don't do it, it's a trap. But you would think, if you're being advised by Account Health, that hopefully it can't be a trap, because they've told you to do it and it's not being held against you at a later stage. But I think we're all just so skeptical when it comes to Amazon. We just don't want to believe that they've done something, that helps, and that there's no kind of trade-off. But yeah, we have to wait and see. Like, and it's what I always say, when something new comes out, you don't really know for a good couple of months if there's any other consequences or anything like that. That's why it's so important being part of communities, because what we can do is we can constantly be asking the questions on lives like this, right? Has anyone had anything counterproductive that's happened as a consequence of this? So that's why we encourage you guys to come on and fill us in as much as possible. I wonder if Tom with copy you and start UK arbitrage too before Q4. Oh, I think you must be talking about Tom Parkinson. Sorry, I don't know who asked that. Actually, who asked that? Sorry, there seems to be some like questions coming up, and I just don't know who's asked. Oh, it's Sean again. Yeah, I don't know. I think you can never say never. I've made that mistake. I always try and hold my hands up. I'm not perfect or anything like that. I've definitely made mistakes in this business, and I think that I made a mistake of saying I'm done with arbitrage, I'll never go back into it. I don't think you can never say never really anymore. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last couple of years. There's been many a time when I've come out and said I'll never. I said I'll never do private label, and never do this, and then I got involved in a private label joint venture. I never do this, never do that. You've always got to be open to opportunity, and I think now, with looking at the way the UK market is definitely going, and what's happening, it's time to reassess it and look at it slightly differently, as opposed to how it was looked at 5 years ago. If you're coming into the market, if you've been selling for 5 years and you're still here, and you're doing what you were doing 5 years ago and it's working for you, then more power to you. Carry on. It's working for you. Absolutely right. But if you're trying to come in to the market over the last 12 months and adopt the same strategies and learning from someone that was doing it 5 years ago, or taking influence from someone that was doing it 5 years ago, it's probably not going to work for you at this stage. I'll be completely honest, because they're so much more ahead in terms of finances and cash flow and Amazon credibility and all these different types of things. But I wouldn't go as far to say that the market is dead, because it's not. You've just got to look at it in a slightly different way. Excuse me, sorry. And that's what this kind of, I'm always going to call it an experiment. Well, it's not really an experiment, because I can't see how it can't work, given what I've said, that the money will be coming from a different part of the business, staying within the corporation, and being utilized for a very specific reason. But you can also start the business like this to give you a good foundation. And that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to explore a one kind of size fits all, to see if it is possible. One, I know it will cover all of the additional benefits, which is ideally the first priority, what I'm looking for. But will it make money? Will it actually make profit? And, that's the question I don't know yet. I think it will, with what I've worked out, but the proof will be in the pudding. It's as simple as that. We don't know until we know. And I wanted something that I could go through and sort of like say, well, yes, this categorically works because look at this. Whereas I can't say that at the moment. If someone says to me right now, someone comes up to me and says, does the UK arbitrage, vanilla arbitrage market work still? I can't say yes or no, because I'm not doing it. So I can't categorically say that. I can surmise and I can say, I think it should, providing you're doing things a bit differently and maybe bringing in bundles. But then that's not, I've changed I've changed the question, which is, do I think the vanilla UK market? I don't know if it does at this stage at the moment, because I'm not doing it. And how can I answer it if I'm not doing it? So that's what I want to explore, and that's what I want to find out. So Sean says, we're so lucky to be alive, being entrepreneurs, chilling in the garden, in the sun, watching you live today. Well, it's nice that you've got sun. We don't have any. It should be thankful for the position. Definitely. It beats the just over broke job any day of the week. And I think that's the important part as well, is everybody sold the dream so much on Amazon arbitrage and whatever, and doing this and doing that. And I'm a guru at the end of the day. I'm not going to start going anti-guru, because I sell information and things like that. And I think there's nothing worse than a guru going anti-guru. It's like one of the funniest things going. But I think there can be people oversell the dream, but it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work. It's just the way that they're not doing it. The way that they're portraying it doesn't work, because they started theirs like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, or maybe during COVID or something like that. Maybe they've pivoted it into something else and they haven't mentioned that or whatever. Like I said, what we're trying to do is show whether or not there is still profit in this straight model or not. And it may well be that there's not. But it doesn't mean again, I'm not the be all and end all. Just because we don't do it, it doesn't mean that someone else, even if it covers building a foundation of a team, even if it covers, like I said, paying for your weekly shop, it depends what your expectations are going into this. If you start an arbitrage business and expect to quit your job in 3 months, you're going to be disappointed. This type of business should ultimately be started. If you're starting from scratch, it should be started as a side hustle. It's as simple as that. Now, you will need to change that strategy at some point, where you can kind of evolve it from a side hustle. So this is, I suppose, this is what I'm trying to say. If I was starting from scratch now, or advising someone from scratch now, I would start on arbitrage, build the foundation of the business, get the extras, build up your team, cover your costs, things like that. Don't worry so much about profit at this stage. And people are going to be like, what on earth are you talking about? Don't worry about profit. No, build the foundation of your business. Get that right. Obviously don't lose any money to start with at the ideal. And then you can add the profitable stuff in. And at that point, that's when you talk about growing and scaling your business, where you look at scaling it and you change it from a side hustle, and you're not trying to grow and scale it on a side hustle anymore. That's when it becomes, I don't want to say a legit business from the start, obviously, but that's when the focus shifts. And I think that's not taught enough, and that's not what is talked about enough. And I spent a really long time talking about this at the start of the year, that I think the reason why people fail in this business is because of expectations. They're looking at it wrong. They've been sold the dream. I'm not a big blamer of other people or anything like that. What I will say, if someone sells you the dream, fair enough. I understand people get missold and misled on things, but it wouldn't still be around now if the model didn't work in some respect, as a minimum of some respect. You can't have something that's been going on for this long and for it not to still have a level of workability. That's what I'm trying to say. David says, sell higher and volumes make it efficient, earn all the points, cash back, turnover money. It's only good to do this route if nothing better to do with spare company cash. Yeah, so there's different, views on, what works and how you can utilize it and what you can do. And like I said, the reason we're doing it is I want to show a slightly different angle, for looking into how you can utilize either profits elsewhere or how you can start the business. I didn't want it to just be about, only if you've got spare cash within your business. I wanted to do it from a beginner and a starter point of view, but I want to set people up on the right way. I want to be able to manage people's expectations and, not be sold the dream, essentially, because I think the model's changed too much over the last couple of years post-COVID, for it to be looked at, and it needs to be looked at in a slightly different way. That's the way that I'm saying. Because what happens is, when you go into something like unique bundles, that almost used to be looked at two separate businesses, whereas it's kind of amalgamated together a little bit for a lot of people's reselling businesses now. But having the right kind of the mindset going into it. And like I said, if you're going into this and you're starting 3 months in thinking you're going to quit your job, it's very unlikely it's going to happen. I was about to say it's possible. Well, anything's possible, of course, but yeah, it's pretty unlikely. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Anyway, we ended up talking quite a bit random stuff today, but that's what it was about. So make sure you utilize those benefits if you haven't already. Make sure you check out the video from last week. This week I've got a sourcing video going in as well, which I'll post in the group. Next week I'm on holiday, so I think Matt's here with a guest. I think I'm not 100% sure, but it will definitely be Matt. He will be here. I will be away, sunning myself next week, and so yeah, different. I like I said, I think it's either Matt and Johnny or Matt and a guest. I'm not 100% sure. So have a great week, guys. Keep going. I know it can be a little bit disheartening kind of sales this time of year, summer slowdown, things like that. But make sure this is a good time to be able to get those ducks in a row ready for when we start talking about Q4. I would say the first week of summer holidays is probably going to be some of the quietest in terms of sales and things like that, because obviously you've got lots of people jetting off on their holidays and things like that. Hopefully, as we go back into the start of August and we get past a payday as well, things should start picking back up again. But I just want to wish everyone a good week. I'll pop this up on YouTube as a replay. If you're watching it on the replay, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we've got new videos every week, as well as our weekly live session, and also to make sure that you give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it as well. But have a great week. Well, have a great couple of weeks, guys. I won't see you. I'll be around in the group and things like that, obviously, but I shall be back week after next. So have a great day, have a great week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.